I have started to learn computer science and coding in a public school, and also traditional drawing at the Beaux Arts School. Then I have learned digital filmmaking and computer graphics at the French school Supinfocom. It is both an artistic and technical training. I am very influenced by classical and universal art themes. I think it is interesting and important for a contemporary artist to embrace them and modernize them using new technologies. If these themes are classical, is it because it is a common denominator for humans? They have always existed and will always exist. Sometimes I can also be influenced by the news, when something important happens, like with my project Fiction 1 and Fiction 2 about Fukushima in 2011. Video games are important for me. I spend a lot of time playing, and I was not surprised that it show up sometime in my art. The first time was in 2011 with a video called Limbus Rage. It all began with an accident, a bug in a video game. I found myself under the level and looked at the world from below. I realized that this change of point of view was dramatically important and totally changed the vision of the game. It also relies on the fact that in video games 3D objects are single-sided, for optimization purpose, and when you are on the other side the object it is transparent, so you get a completely destructured vision of the world. I did another Limbus more recently, in 2015, on the same principle, but this time I did it on purpose. First of all, video game is probably one of the biggest mainstream medium, and in some cases art form. It is important for an artist to be interested in the contemporary forms. Probably if I was from the previous generation I would be interested in using a cinematic form in my artworks. Video game is a form very close to my practice of 3D computer graphics. There is a lot in common, and some tools are the same, so it wasn't difficult for me to embrace it. I didn't use interactivity a lot until now. I was waiting for the good subject. I have just finished a new piece called FPS that is an interactive artwork. It will be presented in the end of April 2016 during a solo exhibition. I don't want to completely reveal it now, but what I can say is that is it about blindness. It uses the mechanism of a first-person shooter. One visual idea totally shifts the perception that we have of this kind of games. I really test the limits of the interactivity. I want that the person who experiments the installation, I don't call him a player, goes from a fun mood of discovery to a kind of disgust or sadness. The relation and tension between reality and simulation is very important in my work. The technique I use, 3D computer graphics, is historically a simulation technique. The idea is to recreate natural phenomena with mathematical equations. Mathematizing the world means observing it very deeply and understanding it better. I very often use simulation in my work: cloth simulation, fluid simulation, particles simulation, because it brings life to something artificial. In the art history there is a lot of examples of artworks using, for instance, commercial products, hijacking objects like in the ready-made. There is a kind of tolerance with art and a right of diversion. Also, using video game in art does not necessarily mean machinima. You can use a game engine and make your own game from scratch. My main technique is 3D computer graphics, so I generally create entirely a film. That also means that when I choose to use video game I have something specific to tell. I don't use it because it is simple. The democratization of the technique is never a quality criterion. It doesn't lead to more or less quality artworks. Quality is always rare, no matter the number of person who practice. In 11 executions I wanted to stay as close as possible to the original game, GTA, a violent open world. After all, just very small things can change the perception and the meaning of the images. First I remind that the typical shot of third-person video game, the camera that follow the back of the character before being a video game shot, is source in movies. It creates a suspense, a tension. It is an atypical shot because of its length that suggests that an event will occur. Then I add to the video game, when the violent act happens, a shot on the victim, and this simple shot changes everything. It is essential. Changing the point of view, and showing the result of the violence creates an empathy feeling and make the film horrible and difficult to watch. I would like to point out that when I use video game form in my artistic work it is not my goal to criticize this media. One can be surprised, and I am, about the proportion of violent game, and regrets it, but I will never criticize the violence of a fictional media, books, movies, or other. What is violent is reality. What was interesting in using an engine of a game like GTA 5 is that characters are randomly placed and the reactions are generated by artificial intelligence. Even if one premeditates an action, it is impossible to know before the victims. When terrorists are involved, life and death are things of chance. To make this idea more understandable I choose to recreate each execution twice to illustrate the absurdity and arbitrariness of these acts.